I think the Dallas Cowboys have one of the most underrated guards in the NFL in backup guard TJ Bass. To me, TJ Bass has so much upside, he has so much potential. On the game's first play, this guy passes off and exchanges his defensive lineman to the center. Then he's going to go and help Terrence Steele, and he's going to absolutely crush this defensive end, as you guys are going to see here on tape. To me, TJ Bass has so much potential, he has so much upside. And we're going to watch some of his tape from this Bengals game because he obviously played at right guard this week. I'm excited for this one. Let's just get right into the tape. All right, you guys, let's get right into this. So if you guys watch this play here, you're going to get 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. And you're going to get 3 guys specifically lined up to the right side of the center, which means you're basically going to have a 3-on-3 situation on this side here. And if you guys keep an eye on TJ Bass, he's going to do a really good job once again swapping with the center on the defensive line game. Just a really good, clean job by TJ Bass. And this allows the center to be able to get off the block. And this allows the center to pick up the guy kind of looping around here. This is a really good job by Bass to be able to recognize it and pick it up. Now the quarterback rolls out of there, but if the quarterback wanted to, he had the ability to stay within the pocket. To me, once again, TJ Bass just doing a really good job, showing us the potential that he has. Now, he hasn't played starting snaps, and I would love to be able to see this guy play an extended amount of time. But based off of some of the little things that we see on tape, the guy has so much upside to be a really good football player. Being able to process the game on this one, just a really, really nice job. You got another one here. Bass is going to do a really nice job being physical. He's going to double team the nose, and he's going to absolutely clear this guy out. So a really, really nice job. The play doesn't really pick up a ton of yards. You're going to get a zone run towards the left, and it's a pretty good job by Bass, right? One of the things you got to recognize with these zone runs is if the center's not able to move this guy as much, the way you see on this one here, then that's up to the guard to be able to clear it out. And the running back has to be able to cut this right off of that. And in this instance, he doesn't do that good of a job squeezing through. It's also hard because Terrence Steele's not able to reach the 4-eye technique. Had Terrence Steele been able to reach that guy there, this play pops for a pretty big gain. And that would have been because of TJ Bass's block, essentially. He's going to clear out the nose, and then he's going to get up to the linebacker. And he does a pretty good job with the way he makes contact with this guy. You're in a really good spot with these guys here, but unfortunately Terrence Steele is not able to get in front of the 4-eye, and with that, play only picks up about 3.5 yards. But again, physical rep once again by TJ Bass. You have to absolutely love that mindset. Alright, guys, you got a 2nd and 2. You're gonna get a power run towards the right of the formation, and you're gonna pick up 27 yards on this one. You're gonna get all the way down into the plus territory. Just a really, really good job here once again by the guys up front, but specifically, shout out to TJ Bass, man. Just being an absolute star caliber offensive lineman. And I know it's early. I know he hasn't really proven it. We haven't gotten an extended look at this guy. But you can just watch the tape, man. I'm telling you guys, TJ Bass is going to be in the NFL for a really, really long time. As long as he continues to play like this, as long as he's able to have this type of success. The TJ Bass story, generally speaking, going from a community college. That's the same community college that Larry Allen, one of the greatest guards we've ever seen in this game, went to. And then essentially just kind of working his way through and then eventually getting, an opportunity as a UDFA. And then it's kind of getting that opportunity with the Cowboys and then really being able to stick with this team. Right? This guy does such a great job with the movement. This guy does a great job with the technique. And although from a frame perspective, he doesn't have a humongous frame, like the athleticism's there. He has really, really good lower body strength. And you can kind of see that in some of these blocks. Just a really, really nice job to be able to pull out of there on this power run concept. Find the linebacker or safety that's going to scrape on this. In this instance, safety gets there, makes the block, holds the block. Just like that, you're going to pick up a 27-yard run. Just a really, really good job right there. Another thing I really like with TJ Bass is just that ability to, not give up on a block, put that effort in, really drive and fight through the block. Now, before we go forward, I want to just take a second to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this channel because this content would not be possible without Underdog. If you guys have never utilized Underdog before, trust me, man, you guys are missing out. I don't do traditional fantasy sports that often. I did do one league this year, but generally speaking, I'm not really doing it anymore. And that's mostly because of Underdog. Underdog has this game that I really, really enjoy. It's called Pick'em. Essentially, you're going to go out there and just make picks that you think are going to be right. They'll have pretty much every pick you can think of for every player, and they have multiple categories as well. So an example would be, I think Aiden O'Connell is going to throw for 125 yards. And you're essentially just going to pick higher on that, right? I think he'll have more than 125 yards. You might say, hey, Dak Prescott's going to have at least 2 touchdowns. I'll pick higher on that. You might say Caleb Williams is going to have a rushing touchdown. And some of those stats also give you multipliers, right? So usually for quarterbacks rushing it in, right? That's something most quarterbacks aren't doing every single week. You'll get like a 4x multiplier on that. So depending on the multiplier, depending on how many picks, you can turn $5 into $400, $1,000, right? Whatever it ends up being. Obviously, it depends on the multiplier, but Underdog to me is one of those places that I pretty much do every single week at this point. Very fun. It makes like watching the Jets and the Dolphins without Tua. It makes them interesting, right? So check out Underdog. If you guys have never used them before, it is the best place. Trust me when I say that. Go to underdogfantasy.com, use my promo code that you guys see on the screen, or use the app. I recommend the app. So let's get right back into the content. Another thing I really like with TJ Bass is just that ability to, not give up on a block, put that effort in, really drive and fight through the block. On this one here, you're going to get a run over here towards the right, which means TJ Bass has to get in front of the 3 technique. Now, one of the things I think people sometimes overlook is based off of how guys are aligned, that's generally going to tell you the gap that they have to contain. So this one here, for example, because of the fact that this defensive lineman is shaded to the outside of TJ Bass, that's essentially going to tell you he has to stay within this gap. And more than that, if you're going to try to run this towards the right, this guy needs to be able to shoot that gap and stop this run from going to that side, especially in a one-on-one situation. It's completely different if you get, let's say, a double team here. In that instance, you just got to hold your ground for the linebacker to be able to come into here and ultimately fill the gap at that point. That's kind of how team defense works. But with a guy like TJ Bass, look at how he fights through this guy. He's going to make contact with him. He's going to keep fighting through it. And eventually, he's going to flip the hips. Right? Eventually, he's going to be able to seal this guy out. And the running back here, Turpin's going to be able to pick up 10 yards on this one. To me, this play does not work without TJ Bass. In fact, you can make the argument this play only works because of TJ Bass, right? He has the hardest block up front. He has the guy where, he has to get in front of him and cut him off in order for the running back here to be able to hit that. Or in this instance, you can say wide receiver or return man, whatever you want to say. But essentially, for this play to work, for Turpin to be able to pick those 10 yards up, TJ Bass has to be able to get in front of this guy. And at the end of this play, the guy does kind of fall for that fake. But also keep in mind, Bass does initially get the helmet on the correct side right away. Right? As soon as this play starts, he's already technically shaded to the right side of this guy. And this guy here should not have allowed that to happen. He should have stayed within this gap here. He should have been able to hold it, maybe reset the line of scrimmage, which is something you see happen all the time, especially against teams that run heavy zone the way the Cowboys do. But on this one, Bass ends up just doing a really, really good job and going to get 10 yards just like that. Alrighty, guys, I want to talk a little bit about the pass pro that TJ Bass has shown us. One of the things I think as an offensive lineman is, can you win your one-on-one blocks? I think it's the most important part of being an offensive lineman. Your one-on-one opportunities you get are easily the differences between Zach Martin and Tyler Smith, and the difference of a guy that's not going to be on the team that long, a guy that ultimately ends up getting cut. And here's a good example of some of what TJ Bass has shown us on tape. On this play here, he's trying to quick set. He's trying to change it up. He's trying to take the fight directly to this defensive tackle. And he's trying to get right into this guy. And he's going to actually end up getting swatted. Right away, he's going to get swiped. The defensive tackle is going to hit this towards the right. And TJ Bass, because of the fact that he's trying to take the fight to this guy, he's going to lean forward as he takes these steps, is going to get off balance. And he's going to lean forward. And you see that happen, right? TJ Bass initially loses the snap because he tried to take the fight to the defensive lineman. And the defensive lineman guessed right? He guessed right in terms of being able to swipe TJ Bass. But Bass does a phenomenal job recovering. And this is part of what makes a guy a really good football player. It's a part of what makes a guy be able to have success long term. It's the movement skills. It's the ability to process, recognize, recover. This rep right here shows you everything you want to see from a football player when they lose a snap, right? Because Zach Martin, although he wins 99.9% of the time, he'll have certain snaps where he might lose. But it's not a losing snap until the snap's over. So you might lose early on, but can you recover within that snap? And that's a very important concept that NFL coaches will talk about. And on this one here, Bass does a really, really good job. And one of the things with Bass is he's a very underrated pass blocker. The guy's done a really good job in pass pro in the games he has played this season. Anytime he's in a one-on-one situation, he's been able to hold his own. He's been able to go up against these guys and really shut them down. Oftentimes, he goes one-on-one against defensive tackles, defensive ends, linebackers, and he's able to shut it down, right? And I think that's one of the things that might allow TJ Bass to be a good football player long-term. Now, he does have to get stronger. He has to continue to develop. he has to continue to have losing snaps, then kind of learn from those. I think that's going to be one of the ways that guys get better over the course of their careers. Go out there, take those snaps, lose those snaps, come back in and be able to kind of adjust. We also have to recognize TJ Bass is not Zach Martin and he's not Tyler Smith, especially when it comes to how high those guys were ultimately drafted. TJ Bass was brought in as a developmental prospect, so it's going to take him a little bit longer. But I think that when the Dallas Cowboys are ready for Zach Martin to ultimately retire, or if he chooses to move on to another team, I think when that moment happens, TJ Bass should be the guy to step in. And I think the Cowboys have a really good football player in Bass. And you see plays like this. I mean, look at the movement. Look at how TJ Bass sets up. He's going to get out of his stance. He's going to try to take the fight to this defensive lineman. The defensive lineman's going to hesitate. He's going to swipe. And Bass does not hesitate at all within this play, right? He does a really good job being able to just stay right on top of this. He keeps the feet moving. He does a good job to be able to move this guy out of there. The quarterback's going to be able to step up into the pocket, and he's going to hit 15 yards downfield. Overall, I think TJ Bass has so much potential, and I think the Dallas Cowboys have a legit guard option with Bass. As they go forward, of course, the Cowboys aren't having a lot of success this season, but I think one of the best things with seasons where your team loses is the fact that you can find these type of players, right? You can find the gems. You can figure out which guys should be here long term. You can figure out which guys should not be here long term. And I think with the Cowboys, they're finding out a lot about this roster this season, right? They're finding out which running back may or may not be here. Which guy long term can be their starting guard or their starting right tackle, or, you know, Tyler Guyton, and kind of letting him develop a little bit. Overall, love what TJ Bass has shown us on tape. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing. We will be covering the Dallas Cowboys for the rest of the season. We will be covering them as the draft process kind of comes as well. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time with another video.